Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Um, I hadn't really planned on doing a video today, um, but I I don't know. There's a lot of chatter about you know dispatch services, um, brokers being parasites. Some of you might know who I'm talking about, um, but one thing I've noticed for the most part is that across a lot of other channels, you see, you know, how great freight brokering is and how much money you can make and all of these kinds of things. But what they don't tell you is the struggle and the grind that we all face, especially first starting out, right? Like it does eventually start to get a little easier, right? As you uh, build rapport, relationships, things like this, things kind of start to fall into place. You know, you're focused on your niche, everything's kind of coming together. Now, obviously, we talk about, the bullwhip effect or the ebb and the flow to the industry and trying to kind of stay ahead of that curve a little bit and things. But, and you can have little hiccups in regards to income and things, but it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not. And in fact, everybody said, why is there such a saturation with dispatch services? Right? We see it all the time, advertising, and a lot of them are just, I'm looking to connect with, but that's it. That right there tells me that there is new to dispatching services as a brand new freight broker going, calling the gatekeeper and saying, yes, could I get added to your freight distribution list? It's just not going to work, right? Now, I did ask a question in the channel there, and I don't know how many people have maybe seen it yet or not. But my question to you, and I'm really kind of hoping that I get some feedback on this, is if you're a new or a struggling freight broker, what are some of the challenges that you're facing right now? And I've got the live chat open. Go ahead and hit me up with it, and we'll try to address some of those issues. Because, like I said, it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and fairy dust and things. You hear truck drivers, especially when rates are down, they don't understand why rates are down. Their costs are the same or sometimes even increased. If you look at the current situation in regards to fuel prices and everything, their costs in many instances has just gone up. And so they don't really understand. They don't care why. Versus shippers right now, we talked about all of that in the previous video, right, with the market update and everything. Okay, first, having a quality conversation, even if I know the name of the person I need to reach. Yeah, I would maybe ask, do you have a script that you're reading from, or are you kind of doing this on the fly? Let's see. Here we go. Here's another one. See, and this is why I mentioned in previous videos, it seems to be kind of the most popular topic is how to acquire shippers, right? We have another one here. Good morning. The struggle that I have is to find shipper and setting up paperwork and what we should charge rate. Okay, well, again, let me kind of address both of those. First one, let's pull that one up here. Yeah, even if you're able to get a hold of the person that you're trying to reach, right now, because there's not a lot of demand, right, it can be difficult than when it is when we're kind of in a capacity crunch, when shippers are scrambling to build relationships with brokers, you know what I mean, to acquire the capacity that they need to move their freight. Right now, we have more trucks on the road than we have volume of freight. So it makes our job in sales a little bit more difficult. I do try to use the script, but I'm totally new and stumble and stutter and panic. Hey, you know what? We all do. In fact, as long as I've been doing this, I still stutter and stammer, and I have hiccups as well. Not every sales call that I have is golden, and I'm not closing that sale up with the first call, right? And this is why we say, do the follow-up calls, things like that. And if you do stutter and panic a little bit, set that prospect off to the side and call them back in a week, a month, 2 weeks, whatever. Uh, you know, it's never too late, right? Until they tell you to quit calling. Perfect example, and I use this, is my uncle, for instance. Back in the day when he was, I believe, a teenager, here in Michigan, uh, lived not too far from the Kellogg's factory, right? And he was looking for a job, and so he would sit outside on the steps and wait for the man that did the hiring and stuff, and ask for a job. And he kept telling him, "Sorry, kid, I don't have anything for you." And he did this every single day. He waited for that guy every single morning, and can he have a job? Guy said, "Sorry, kid, I don't have anything for you." Day after day after day after day, and this went on, I get roughly 2 weeks, right? And finally, he said, "Do you know how to push a broom?" And he gave him a job, and then he got promoted and went on. So don't ever give up, right? We've got to be perseverant. Um, so yeah, if you are reading from a script, make sure that it flows, right? Like, we don't want to practice in the mirror, practice on with your friends, just like maybe they were a shipper or something, because it will help as you build your confidence. Those conversations will become a lot more smooth than they were when than you were day one. So yeah, don't give up. Just keep at it, and like I said, practice, practice, practice. And kind of the old saying is, practice makes perfect. No, practice makes us better. Okay. All right. Let's go back to this one. Good morning. The struggle that I have is to find shipper and setting up paperwork and what we should charge rate. Okay. Google is going to be one of your best friends in regards to finding shippers. And I have previous videos on finding shippers. Right off the bat, do you have a niche? Have you focused in on a niche? Because that's where I would say, if you're just kind of shotgunning it out there and just sort of, whatever sticks, right? Kind of throwing blind at a dartboard, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But if you find a niche, like an equipment type, let's just use dry van for instance, and then you decide, maybe you want to get into plastics or something, and maybe out of a certain area. Do you have any carrier connections currently? Utilize your social media groups, right? We have a group for the channel. There's like 20,000 members in there. Join, create a post looking to connect with carriers. What lanes are you looking to run? Things like that. I'm interested primarily in working with carriers that are dry van asset based, that kind of thing. But yeah, let's just use hypothetical. You're looking to get in a dry van and hauling plastics, and let's just say maybe out of Illinois. Okay, so I would start maybe looking up those companies in Illinois that are manufacturing plastics, whether it's the raw product or the finished product, that kind of thing. And oftentimes, like, if I would maybe even start with raw product, like the little plastic pellets and stuff for like injection molding, blow molding, and things like that, because they're going to ship that to, let's just say, a company that makes plastic coat hangers. Okay, they're going to turn that raw material into plastic coat hangers, and in turn ship that out to Walmart or wherever, right? Target, whatever the case may be. So if you're sending trucks in there, then you more than likely can get reloads, right? Because then you can reach out to that shipper that's shipping out those plastic coat hangers and say, hey, I'm already bringing raw material in to you. I have capacity. They're right there. And in turn, that will strengthen your carrier relationships, because now they're probably not looking for another load. They're just going to drop, reload, and continue on. Okay. But yeah, great question. Social media is bashing brokers. Posts say cut out middleman, or this opportunity is not for brokers. Okay, just like in my intro, there's a gentleman, and I'm not going to call him out, and he does not, to my understanding, live here in the U.S., but yeah, he's a big one to call brokers parasites and scum, and that we're not needed. Well, if we weren't needed, we wouldn't be here, right? You just got to kind of shrug that stuff off. We try to keep, not let brokers bash carriers and vice versa in our Facebook group. So if you're not already a member, Heather, I would appreciate, you putting in a request to join. It's Freight Brokers and Carriers Network Group. I think we have a link in the previous videos. I did not put links down below. I'm going to have to go back and edit that. But yeah, it doesn't do anybody any good, right? Especially when from our side of the table as brokers, right now the way shippers are, especially one of my big shippers. Let's just say, for instance, market rate is $2,000, and they're offering me a rate to move the load at $1,600. Okay, now I have to make money on it. I have bills just like anybody else, right? Electric, gas, insurance, all kinds of things, car payment, everything else. We have to survive. We're not just sitting here able to work for free, just because we work from home or in an office, with a short commute or something. So yeah, it has gotten difficult, but carriers see, well, I should be getting paid $2,000. Now the broker wants to pay me $1,400. You know what I mean? He's taking $600 off the top plus, and that's just not always the case, right? And for my regular carriers, I'm pretty transparent with them. They know what I make, or if they even have any kind of inkling that I'm taking off more than what they think I am, I have no problem showing them that. I really don't. If they don't like what I'm making on it, by all means, you can sever our relationship. But I do value my relationship with my carriers, so I have no problem doing that. I know some brokers are kind of gun shy about doing that, but I am not. Of course, I've been in this for a while. Speaking of which, we have a gentleman that recently joined the group, and I can tell that he's brand new. He started his own Facebook page, and I have not approved his post for the simple fact that he's posting his available loads, which it looks like a lot of like RFQs and RFPs for the coming year. Some are dedicated or on a semi-dedicated basis, and he's posting his direct shipper contacts in there. Sir, if you're watching this, please take down your post and that, because what's going to inevitably end up happening, and I don't ever want to see anybody fail, is that you're going to see a lot of brokers working in it and seeing that and sniping your customers from you, right? Not that we have to be, completely closed off, and but there's a certain amount of information that we share, right? But just throwing that out there randomly for the entire world. One, your customer's not going to appreciate it, because now they went from maybe 50 calls a day that they were getting from brokers. Now they're going to like 300 calls a day because you blasted that out on social media. Okay. Let's see, moving on. Another one, at Heather, yes, I see that every day. Most brokers feel some type of way. Okay. We'll continue to work on that. I don't have a niche, but people say to start produce, dry bed, etc. Yeah, produce obviously is seasonal. um, you know, that's going to be firing up here pretty soon. I'm not sure how the current produce season for 2023 is going to turn out. I've heard a lot of conflicting information that it's not going to be as lucrative as it has been historically, just kind of because of the way the world has been with the war in the Ukraine and, fertilizer and all of these things. I don't do a lot of produce shipping anymore. I can look into that and maybe, in my next video, kind of give a quick update on that. But if that's something that you're looking to get into, right now, with it being end of January, they're probably still shipping root vegetables like carrots, potatoes, things like that. Those are typically your winter vegetables. Upcoming, you'll be looking at corn and things like that. Obviously, that stuff has to be iced, especially if it's going on a vented van, and depending on the weather, sometimes they can do it on a vented van, but they have to have the produce vents, right? Like the big pop-out vents. They can't have the little louvered vents. So produce was good to me for quite a while, but you have to find other freight to supplement that. So by August, September, then you'd be looking at pumpkins, and then Christmas trees moving into fall, things like that. So if you are going to pursue seasonal type produce, again, I would just reinforce the idea of always trying to think 3 months ahead, okay, of whatever the seasonality is on that. Produce Market Guide, free resource for you guys right there. Check it out. And they have oftentimes they'll list the seasons of what's being shipped. So like if it's asparagus or avocados or tomatoes or onions or whatever, a lot of times they'll tell you like what months those are shipping in. And so then you want to try to reach out to those shippers starting like 3 months ahead. Okay. Let's see how we should set up our contract. You're talking about the broker shipper agreement. Is that what you're referring to? Primarily, what you're really going to want, probably if you're factoring, your factoring company, or if you're not factoring, you're going to want a credit application at a minimum. Oftentimes, like, we don't necessarily have an agreement. I know some brokers do. We do send over a packet with it. Basically is a rundown of our services, copy of our authority, scat code, insurance, all that kind of W-9, all of that fun stuff, right? We do have on the website, where is it? Under resources, broker downloads. If you don't already have one, now these are editable, shipper agreements and carrier agreements. If you're doing your carrier agreement by hand, I really prefer to use I don't like to use the PDFs because it's a lot of extra legwork that you have to do to constantly verify and vet your carriers. But if you're using like DAT Onboard, for instance, where basically you just send them a link, they sign up, and then you'll get an email notification, and you can vet your carriers that way. They basically it automatically check to make sure that their authority is still good, their insurance and everything. But we do have the downloads available on there for the shipper agreement, carrier agreement. Again, they are editable, so you can add your company logo and things like that. If you need to change wording, you should be able to do that in there. I believe. So, okay, let's see. Already have it typed, but just need someone to look at it. If you want, I can look at it and get it, my opinion of it back to you by Monday at the very latest. I will try to get to it today immediately so that you're prepared by Monday. FreightmasterResources@gmail.com. If you're a carrier watching right now and you want to connect with me, or just think of a question after the fact, if you're a broker, carrier, dispatcher, whatever. I always try to get to emails as much as possible. I know I've had a few carriers reach out to me. I'm getting to you guys as fast as I can. We have already started to set up some carriers with some freight in the areas that they needed. But again, it's a process because I've got 10,000 other things going on. But we are slowly but surely getting to everybody. So yeah. But yeah, definitely I would recommend if you use some sort of a vetting service, RMIS, DAT, Onboard, something like that. The email, sure. There you are. And like I said, I'll be more than happy to look at that for you. But again, kind of going back to where I started with this video, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, as obviously many of you are finding out, right? Especially if you got into this with no prior experience. It's difficult enough even if you came over from a dispatcher position or from the carrier side. I can't tell you the number of people that I've tried to help and work with, and even help them get their first customer and everything, but there just always kind of seems to be some sort of a disconnect, or they get frustrated. You really have to change your mindset, especially if you're coming over from the carrier side, right? A lot of them say, I've seen posts and things like that, and hey Tim, I'm going to start running. I came over as an owner operator to the brokerage side because I wasn't making it over there. And I'm going to start running my freight at 3% margins. If you're factoring, they're going to take 3%, right? So your profit margin just went out the window. So now you're basically working for free. Okay. By the way, if you are looking for factoring, we do have a factoring company that we recommend. If you're looking for a TMS, EasyPropel, they utilize AI. Love it, absolutely love it. Drag and drop, automate your billing. It comes with a mobile app for drivers. They can basically, no matter how they hold the phone, as long as they're on the outside of the paperwork, like the bill of lading and stuff, it automatically uploads to the system and tags it into that load. And they can mark the load finished, and it automates the billing, and it integrates with QuickBooks, and there's so much more. I don't want to get off on that. Like I said, we have a video on that with the owner of EasyPropel. And if you need some more information on that, by all means, again, email me and I can get you set up with a demo if you want to take a little bit of a closer look at it or something. I don't know why some people that's already ahead in the industry was trying to make me keep saying my surety bond insurance, but want me to sign up under company as a dispatcher because I'm new. I'm not sure I follow that question. They're trying to make you keep paying your surety bond insurance, but want you to sign up under their company as a dispatcher. So like as a freight agent, am I understanding that right? Because as a freight agent, the broker should have the insurance and the bond. You don't need that as an agent. You are essentially an independent contractor. You're not required to have any of that. And essentially, then you just carry out the day-to-day duties as a certified freight broker would. How to go about having successful cold email outreach. I try to email, then I leave a voicemail, usually as a follow-up. Yes, it is difficult. Okay, right there in regards to voicemails, I typically don't like to leave them, especially in a market like we're in. For the simple reason is, like I mentioned earlier, shippers are going to get, typically on any day, 50 to 100 calls from freight brokers. And so oftentimes what I'll do is, if I do decide to leave a voicemail, I'll just say, hey, this is Tim. Sorry I missed you. My direct callback number is, and then I'll leave my callback number. Which they might say, well, who the heck is Tim? And I obviously need to call them back in regards to something, right? Emails, they do work. Statistically, and I don't have the data. I think I pulled it up in a previous video. The average success of cold calling versus emails. They're not as effective, but they can be. It's just not to the extent that cold calling would be. And if you live in an area where you have like an industrial park that's nearby, for instance, that's they're going to have all those manufacturing companies right there, like in a city block, essentially. And you can actually go in there and try to get a face-to-face with the decision maker, right? Sometimes it doesn't hurt to bring a box of donuts or a pizza or something, to kind of schmooze your way in there. But yeah, you can absolutely do that if you live in an area like that. If you're living in a rural area, obviously that can be a little bit more difficult. I'm not always a fan of doing the face-to-face for the simple fact that I can cover a lot more ground on the phone than I can driving around, right? So yeah, I prefer to use the call. And if you miss them, and you do end up with a voicemail, just make a point to maybe try them later on in the day. Maybe they were at lunch or got pulled off into a meeting or something. Call them back later that day, the next day, whichever. Yeah, just don't give up. Email me, and I actually have a cold email that I can send you, and you can edit it to your liking. But I have found that it has it's the best email that I've come up with so far that has accumulated some success, and I've kind of rewritten it over the years and things. But it does tend to work to at least to some extent, or get them to reply, right, and kind of give me a, hey Tim, can you tell me a little bit more about what you do or something, or hey Tim, send me over your paperwork. We're not looking right now, but when we get ready to do our RFPs for the year or for the quarter or whatever the case may be, I'll send those over to you. So I'm loving the questions, guys. Keep them coming. But yeah, I think a lot of owner operators and carriers that don't truly understand what a freight broker does, right? And we kind of discussed this in a previous video in regards to, if a company had to hire a salesperson, you're looking at 6 figures a year right there to hire them on. Marketing, dispatch, all these things, all these different aspects that we handle, right? Building and keeping relationships with shippers, all the legwork that we put in to looking for shippers, all these kind of things that we have involved that I don't think that they necessarily always realize. Okay. I know you said you use Google, but can we also use LinkedIn for shipper? Can I also get that email as well? Yeah, I posted the email earlier. I can put it down again. Yes, you can use LinkedIn. One moment here. I can't type today. In fact, if you go to your LinkedIn profile right now and in the search, if you're just looking for a shotgun method, for instance, just type in shipping manager, shipping supervisor, logistics supervisor, anything like that. You are going to end up with hundreds of thousands of results. Now, there are some like brokers or broker agents that'll call themselves a logistics manager or something like that. So you'll see a few of those sprinkled in. But for the most part, you're going to find the contact name for all these different companies, right? If you're not, or maybe you just don't know what niche to start with, run down through that list. I would not suggest getting into something like over-dimensional type freight or anything that's specialized, for the simple fact that until you've worked more general type freight for a while, um, there's a lot more there's a lot more moving parts to specialized freight than there is with your typical regular dry van freight. Um, so that is something I will mention. Talking about the one had recreated to send email to shipper. Yes, email me at freightmasterresources@gmail.com and I will reply with that email script for you. Okay. Anybody that wants it, I'll be more than happy to share that with you. And again, I'll try to answer everybody's emails today. But yeah, LinkedIn or join different groups. There's groups in LinkedIn just like there is on Facebook, right? And so join those groups, connect with other industry professionals, and don't try to, if you're reaching out to like messaging a prospect through LinkedIn, don't try to sell them, hey, I see that you're the transportation manager or decision maker at XYZ Plastics or something, maybe share some information with them, right? Our shippers need to be educated as well. In fact, I think I talked about that in one of my previous videos in regards to a load that I had, which was kind of out of the blue for a shipper that shipped some very low value type freight. They don't ship a lot with me, but we've been working together for 5-6 years. But different times of the year, they have fairly regular freight, and just recently in this one instance, they had a very, very high value load, but there wasn't very much of it. And so I had to actually kind of educate them on that. So a lot of your smaller to medium-sized shippers, they might not always realize or consider with all the other things that they're doing as well. Okay, let's see. I spoke with shippers and they told me that they will work with me, but I still haven't received the loads. How do I get their attention to actually get the loads? Have you been sending follow-up emails to them or calling them back and say, hey, I just wanted to call and follow up on that email distribution list? Sometimes they forget. Which brings me to another point, is if you've sent over your credit application and it's been a few, 3 days or so, and you still haven't received that back from them yet, oftentimes it's not the transportation manager that fills those out. They actually kind of send that over to their accounting department or somebody, and obviously they're busy dealing with AP, AR, and that kind of thing, payroll. So you are not a priority on their list, right? To fill out that information or send you over a reference sheet or something that you can use to establish credit. So oftentimes we kind of have to, call or email them back and follow up. Just say, hey, I was just looking for that credit sheet, or whatever. And then I'll usually try to light a fire on them, and they'll get them back to you oftentimes like within the hour. So let's see. Another area of struggle is sorting out companies that already have a logistics component in their business or not. That takes time. Yes, and there are some shippers out there that they've already signed like a contract with another brokerage. Typically, those are big box brokerages, often, and they might be asset based, and they've already signed like a 2 or 3 year commitment with that brokerage. And I've even had shippers say, hey, we're not happy. We got into this 2 or 3 year agreement with them. We're not happy with the way things have turned out. Maybe they were over their freight spend budget, or maybe they just completely dropped the ball and loads weren't getting picked up or delivered on time. Whatever the case may be. So they said, hey, we have to fulfill the rest of our agreement, but in November, call me back. I would love to, work with you when that happens, right? Because they're just not happy. Sometimes they're happy and they've been working with the same brokerage for 10 years. I get that. I've got customers that I'm their sole broker, and I've been with them for several years, a decade. Yes, I've been calling them back, but sometimes I get an answer and sometimes I don't. Yeah, it's just keep at it, you know. I wish I had a better answer for you than that. It's just like I said, a lot of it's perseverance. Um, but again, guys, I don't want you to lose hope, right? That's why I keep using that word perseverance, because things can be kind of hit and miss at times, and especially with the freight market that we're in right now. But don't give up, because it will come around, right? Um, it's just we really need to stick at it. And again, I use that old school rule of thumb of calling an average of 100 new prospects per day to get one or maybe even two new customers. You'd be surprised over the years how many new broker agents or brokers that have their own authority that I've spoken with. They're making 5 calls, 10 calls a day. And it just, oh, it's been 6 months and I don't have my first shipper. Well, how many calls are you making a day? How many follow-ups are you doing a day? Right? I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but we tend to get afraid of the phone, especially if you don't have a background in sales, which I didn't when I first started, right? It was very difficult. It's very shy of the phone. And so it took me a little while, a couple of weeks before I acquired my first customer. But I mean, that built my confidence up so much, especially once I moved that first load, which I think it was about 3 days later. It was in February when I got that first customer. In fact, it was a load of flowers. It was an LTL load of flowers. And I was just so elated that I couldn't wait. I would lay awake at night just waiting for morning so that I could start jumping on some more calls and calling some more prospects. It just got very, very exciting to me. And now, being a broker, logistics, talking to carriers, talking to agents, and things like that, it's consumed me. It really has. In fact, someday when I retire, I've had this discussion with my wife, and I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I do have hobbies and things, but I love this industry so much. And I've met so many great people. There's a few bad apples out there, right? There always is going to be. But I love this industry so much, and I care about it so much. And every person that I meet, and I want to see everybody be successful. But this is part of the reason why I'm doing this video, right? Because there's so many other people out there that, oh, this broker was working for 2 weeks and did $60,000 million in sales. Well, that's probably not average. And were they an agent before that happened? Because I think oftentimes they were, right? They didn't just go out and get their authority and 2 weeks later they're making tremendous amounts of money. It just doesn't happen, Like I said, it's not all fairy dust and rainbows. It takes time. Next question: what web we should use to set up website? I see people say Wix. I don't think there's any real you can use Wix. Wix is great. If you're not familiar with website design and things like that, or use Fiverr. I think there's people on there that'll set you up with a homepage or something. But yeah, Wix, Weebly, if you're familiar with WordPress. In fact, a lot of the hosting sites and things now, they have kind of almost like a drag and drop, like Wix or Weebly or any of those, or web.com. Yeah, they're all great. It's just, having that presence. And once you do have that presence on there, one thing I am going to recommend to you to just kind of further elaborate on that is set up your Google business profile. Let's just say, let me think of a smaller business or something. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. On the right-hand side of Google, you see where people can leave their Google reviews and things like that. It shows your business hours, phone number, address, all of that kind of thing. I have actually had local shippers reach out to me. Sometimes maybe it's a one-off shipment. Maybe it's a shipper on the other side of the country that has a load picking up in my town, and they just wanted to work with somebody local. They were looking for a broker that could handle it. In fact, I've had that happen on numerous occasions, and I've actually gone over, met the driver, threw him a few bucks, $20, $40, whatever, $50. Just check to make sure, see how everything was going. And it kind of gave me a moment to, I don't know, just kind of talk about the industry a little bit, some of the things that, a little face to face, right? So I enjoyed that when that happens. Do I ever do live cold calling? I have not yet. That is something that's been in the back of my mind that I would love to do. Again, I'm not a huge techie guy, but I do have some colleagues and some friends that can help me out with that. Because I think when I practiced it one time, it didn't come through very well, and not everybody could kind of hear me and hear the conversation. So that is something. Thank you. That's actually a great reminder. I would love to do some live cold calling for you guys, so you can kind of see what I do. And again, my approach to a lot of my calls is kind of very simplistic. I'll more or less just call them and just say, hey, hey, John, this is Tim over at XYZ Logistics or whatever. How are you doing today? And they'll be like, fine. You're probably thinking, it's another broker. John, the reason for my call today is that I typically have 13 trucks every week or every day, whatever the case may be, available within a 20-mile, 40-mile, 50-mile radius, whatever it is, of your location. And we're always looking for additional outbound lanes. Do you keep your options open for additional capacity? Something to that effect, right? Not every phone call goes like that, but something very similar to that, right? So I'll give you that until I get the live cold calling and things. But I hope maybe that helps you. Maybe even helps you get away from a script if you don't want to follow a script. But I like that approach because it's very simple. I've established the fact that I have capacity, that I'm not going to be a load board jockey just throwing their stuff out there and hoping whatever sticks. And that literally they can email me, call me, text me, which I have customers do. I've been with them for many years, and I've got care relationships, and they'll just send me a text and say, hey, Tim, can you get me a truck in here within the next 3 hours? Yes, sir. Let me call Bob or whoever, Mike, and I'll let them know. Say, hey, got another one. Sometimes they're little local runs or whatever, but that's those carriers that told me, hey, I'm here every day. Google Business Profile, yes. That's that little, let me try to think. Or if you guys have I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm not explaining it. Let me just see here. All right. Just for instance, okay, now these are like a group of plastic manufacturers. I use plastics because this is what we talked about earlier, right? So Woodstock Plastics Company Incorporated. We'll just use the middle one and just see. Woodstock. Company Incorporated. Right here. This is what I'm talking about. Right here on the right-hand side. Phone number, address, and all of that. Now, it's free to list that on Google. You just have to set it up. But this is massive, right? Because people are so visual when they are looking up a broker in your particular town. Let's just say you're in Detroit, Michigan or something. I'm in Michigan, so I use Detroit as an example. But when they're looking for a broker or a carrier or a dispatcher, whatever the case may be, and you pop up like this, they're probably not going to look here, or at least not right away, right? Because this is big, it's bold, it's in their face, and again, it's free. You just have to fill out some basic information. And again, link to the website, and let's see what they do, by the way. Since we're here, and maybe this is a lead for you. Thermal forming, looks like they do stuff for football helmets and things, resealable packaging and stuff like that. Again, guys, sometimes if you're looking up a prospect, don't ever forget to check the About Us or Contact Us, or maybe sometimes it'll say Our Team. Right here, just-in-time delivery from local deliveries to global exports. So maybe they have loads that have to go into the ports, or maybe it goes to a warehouse at a freight forwarder, maybe in Houston or something, or LA, whatever the case may be. So yeah, this would probably be a great prospect. But yeah, oftentimes on those About Us pages or Contact Us pages, it'll list their management team, and sometimes they'll have like the phone number, their direct phone number, email, the decision maker's name, or sometimes name and photo right there on those pages. So it kind of saves you from doing that lookup on LinkedIn when they've got everything right there. And I always advise, checking out a prospect to see, just get a little bit more familiar with what they do and things like that. This particular customer, they do not have that information available, but we could probably go to LinkedIn and find out. Another thing, guys, as you're building your care relationships, and I'll get to some more of your questions here in just a second, as we're kind of going along here, is, let's see, they have 2 questions, but I'm not seeing any reviews on this particular manufacturer. And there's all these other suggestions, which we can get to. But let's see, advanced molding technologies. Let's get to one with, okay, so they have 1 review, okay? I always try to look at reviews, because oftentimes drivers will leave reviews in regards to if they were, if they offered overnight parking, or if it took them 9 hours to get loaded, things like this. Because if they're a really slow shipper or receiver, then they might not be the greatest prospect, or maybe they're super cheap, right? They're just a very, very poorly mismanaged company. They're slow to load, slow to offload, they're rude, their freight rates are not up to par, things like this. Like right here we go. We finally found one, right? Fast loading, nice people, make sure your trailer is clean and no water leaks. So there you go. Manufacturing company in Woodstock, Illinois. There's a lead for you guys. They'll be open 8 a.m. Monday morning. Let's check them out and find out what they do real quick. And again, I'll get back to some more of your live questions here. Why is this loading so slow? Okay, well, I guess while we're waiting on that to load, what should I add as a description on there? You can look at other Google business profiles as a description. It's just more or less just kind of a quick synopsis of what you do, your services and that kind of a thing. It doesn't have to be overly elaborate. And maybe after you've started to move a couple of loads, ask your drivers to send you pictures of the load, right? I've done that. And they'll send me, sometimes some of these drivers, actually, they should be photographers. I think they kind of miss their calling, because they'll send me these wonderful, wonderful pictures of their truck loaded. And then, I'll post that on there, or I'll even send it to my customer. And they'll be like, wow, that load is strapped down. It looks beautiful. Thank you so much, Tim. And thanks, thank your driver, and sometimes I'll even throw an extra $50. I'll take $50 out of my margin and send it to them. Be like, hey, thank you so much for doing such a great job. You're a true professional at what you do, right? Which is what we're all supposed to be, whether we're brokers, drivers, whatever. But here, Yeah, let's see if they have anything in there on their management team. And this looks like they're a raw material company, perhaps, right? So this would be a really great prospect, like I mentioned earlier. Raw material going to a company that maybe manufactures whatever. Maybe they ship to that other company that made the football helmets and resealable bags and stuff. We don't know. Right there, their team. General manager of sales, sales accounts receivable, inventory control, and logistics quality control. Right there. Okay, Steve's in sales, but I would probably call and talk to Nick. And look, you've got his phone number, you've got his direct email, and everything. So there you go, guys. I gave you another free lead, right? That's what we're here for, because I want to see you guys succeed. I want to see you guys going into Monday pumped up, just like a champ, right? Go into it. I kind of use the go into your day every day with the confidence of a 3-year-old, right? You ever see a 3-year-old that they don't care? They're going to go on and do their thing. So, okay. Even I don't have truck on hand, but have it signed up with carrier. Yeah, you don't have to have trucks on hand right away, right? But utilize your social media platforms. Like I said, we've got the group. I created the group for you guys, right? All you brokers, broker agents, carriers, owner operators, get on in it and get in there and connect. Maybe you've got your first shipper and you're looking to connect with these carriers. Maybe your shipper says, well, we've got this load 3 days a week. Can you handle that? Or they're sending over a daily load list, but after a couple of weeks, you notice that you've got that particular lane from this customer that is picking up every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for instance, out of Chicago going to Dallas, right? Well, why are they throwing that out there? If you have a carrier that says, I love that lane from Chicago to Dallas, and I actually have a load coming back from Dallas, right? Or in this instance, raw material supplier, maybe they're shipping to a manufacturer in Dallas, and Dallas is redistributing that, all over the country, but one of their regular lanes is back to Chicago. So then we put together, like we've talked about in previous videos, that dumbbell, right? You could just back and forth, A to B and B back to A, right? And you can connect with that carrier through the group or another group if you so wish, and just say, hey, I've got this regular lane. And then talk to your customer and say, hey, I've got trucks that'll take care of this dedicated. You don't have to keep posting that out every day or every week, right? We can handle that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We got it. And then that's automatic, right? You don't have to spend your time on the load board, and trying to find a shipper and negotiating rates. It's automatic. You've got John and his team and his other drivers that are going to pick that load up every time you've got it, right? And then you can focus your efforts on acquiring more customers, okay? I can't see because it's blurry. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe I have to adjust something in my settings, but I can't do it while I'm live, unfortunately. Yeah, I assume you're talking about this information right here. And I'm going to go ahead and share this out with you, and I'll paste it in the chat. Oh. I hope that's what you were wanting. Or if it was something else, in which case I can back up. But yeah, guys, I guess I just wanted to kind of, like I said, I just wanted to jump on here and kind of give some real talk to you guys about, if you got into this, somebody told you, oh, you're going to make vast amounts of money overnight. It's just not the case. I think a lot of people try to put off like, oh, on my first day, I made all this money. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. It takes time. Yeah, the live will stay up. You can get it on replay. Absolutely. Once we finish this and I end the broadcast and it finishes doing its thing on YouTube, yeah, you can come back to this and rewatch or skip back over to it. I don't know where we're at timestamp wise. Holy cow, we've been on for almost an hour. So it'd be like minute 53, minute 54, if that helps. So anyway, you can just skip over to it if that's all you needed. But yeah, I like I said, I always try to give real talk, real life scenarios, not just, like I mentioned earlier, like some of these other channels, and I'm not downing the other channels. They have good information as well, but again, they're blowing unicorn farts and rainbows and fairy dust and stuff out there. A lot of times it seems like, and I'm just like, I don't know. Definitely is a struggle, especially with no logistics experience or industry. Yes, sir. And if you have maybe you can connect with a local mentor, right? And I do these videos, and I really hope that these are helping you guys. But maybe you can connect with someone else, that you can connect with on a regular basis and ask questions to, or email me. I left my email there in the chat. Email me if it's something, and I try to check that regularly. Every day throughout the week. But yeah, maybe connect with somebody else through the group, or just ask a question. And if you might get a simple answer, you might get a very broad answer. But yeah, that's why it's called the networking group, right? Or that's why I ended it with networking group, because it's for all of us to kind of help grow together, right? So we all succeed. And it doesn't matter whether you're a broker or a carrier. And sometimes we have shippers that request to join the group. They need help, even now, even with the industry the way it is, where shippers really shouldn't be looking, like reaching out. But I think that, like in the previous video that we shared from our friends over at DAT, with all the data where we have been the last year or two, and where we're what it's looking like going into the year. I think that a lot of because shippers aren't dumb, right? I think that they realize that at some point in time this year, that bullwhip effect is going to swing back around, and we're going to lose capacity between now and then. It's almost inevitable. So I think that some of these shippers are kind of trying to get ahead of the curve and build those broker relationships now. So again, persevere, don't give up, because there's going to come a point to where when that capacity crunch happens, they're going to need us. Right? They're going to be scrambling to make sure that their loads are getting picked up and delivered and everything. And it's better to start that relationship now, and kind of ease into it and get that going, than it will be wait until the last minute going, oh no, I need trucks and I don't have a broker. My current broker just is failing or whatever. So yeah, keep making those calls, follow-ups, everything. I'm loving this, guys. I really am. I really am. Any other questions or anything? I apologize. We've run for an hour, but at the same time, we've run for an hour, right? We've been answering questions and everything. And if I missed your question again, I apologize. Hit me up in the email, or if you think of anything, after the fact. And again, I will try to address that. And if it gets to the point where we maybe need to do a one-on-one call or something like that, we can absolutely do that. We'll just have to set up a time. I am going to be busy later this afternoon. I have a function that I have to attend, but so if I don't get to you right away today, again, I apologize. It will probably be maybe tomorrow, but depending upon how many emails I have to answer, right? I'm just one man. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, at some point in time, I will be having a colleague of mine, Devin, on. If you guys are gamers at all, by the way, Devin's a super great guy. A lot of industry knowledge. He actually has a gaming channel called Pure Sports Detroit. So if you guys are into that or know somebody who is, by all means, check him out. He's got some really great videos. He does a lot of like football, soccer, things like that. And some of it's like gameplay, some of it's tutorials on different stuff. But yeah, great channel. I watch him. I mess with him a little bit sometimes in the live chat. just because I can. We're buddies, right? Got to do that once in a while. But okay, well, guys, again, I appreciate you. I love you all. I really love the interaction, the questions, and everything. And again, if I missed you, I apologize sincerely. But I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and hopefully that helps you guys out. And again, don't forget to send me those emails. I'll look over those agreements and things, and look at whatever you guys needed me to. And again, I'll drop links, or you can go to one of the previous videos down below. If you guys don't already have DAT, they are the #1 load board. You guys know I'm a fan. Yes, hey, anytime. I love doing these lives rather than the pre-recorded, because, just because I'm talking about whatever topic that day, you guys might have questions. So I think from now on, unless, obviously some kind of a circumstance, I have to be out of town and I have to pre-record something, we're just going to do lives from now on. Again, I do it. I do go live every Monday, and I'm trying to set aside an exact time. Right now, I'm not, but if you guys love doing this, again, every Monday, I'll be doing this, and then I try to, get to some more videos throughout the week as much as I can, but always on a Monday, no matter what. Okay. But yeah, again, I love y'all. I wish you all the best success. And again, go into Monday with the confidence of a 3-year-old, right? And I hope you guys are pumped up and land your first customer. In fact, if you guys land your first customer, or maybe landed several new customers during a day or a week or something like that as a result of information that you got from some of my videos, man, tell me about it. Tell me about it, because I would love to celebrate you. I really would. Hey, Tim, I've been at this for a month and I finally got my first new customer or something. Hey, let's celebrate that. I love to root people on and cheer, right? I'm going to be your biggest cheerleader. Okay. So, all right. Anywho, as always, be kind to one another, and thanks again. Bye-bye now.